All right, welcome back to PipeCast on another Burley Boys summer, the end of Burley Boys summer. We finally concluded all the Burleys. This episode, we're going to be discussing HH Bold Kentucky. Take a look at that blend.
All right, what we have here is McBaren's HH Bowl, Kentucky. Now, I'm bringing out the 10 because I really want to emphasize the presentation here. So this is, when you're getting McBaren in its flake form. Um, so let's see here. Look at that. Just look at this. I mean, this is what presentation is. And then there is your flakes. So I just wanted to touch on that before we dive into the actual breakdown of the blend here. But yeah, so here is McBaren HH Bold Kentucky. Interesting enough, I don't know what the difference is, but some other blends, they'll kind of come in these sticks of gum, more or less kind of like what we refer to them as. But then if you look at HH Burley Flake, it comes in a wide piece, kind of like that. Not sure why, but there you have it. So this is comprised of Dark Fire Kentucky and Bright Virginia. So no Burley here, other than kind of the Dark Fire Kentucky, right? But no true Burley here. And this one, isn't as dark as Old Dark Fire, which I find that odd. Again, I don't know. Maybe that has to do with the fact that we were looking at Ready Rub versus Flake. If we had the flake of Old Dark Fire, maybe we'd have some kind of better comparison here. But I think predominantly this is Dark Fired. That darker color is matching up to here, whereas those little specks of bright are definitely that Bright Virginia right here. So a little bit easier blend to pick out. But let's just get over there and see how it smokes.
So that was HH Bold Kentucky. As you can see, another classic example of just real nice presentation with the perfect flake and what Patrick would describe as the perfect 10, So, this is without saying it's a pairing, this is a kind of a pairing episode with the Old Dark Fired episode we did last week. And I had mentioned at the end of that particular episode that I thought that one, and this is in the case of this, is a blend, while the other, I didn't really have a name for at the time, but I think the best way to look at it would be a pairing or a grafting. So Old Dark Fired, I think its components, because I think it has a lighter Virginia. Like when I say like lighter, I mean like 5-10% is what it tastes like. The Virginia's not really forward, but the Dark Fired being a Dark Fired Burley and the Burley itself pair up so well or graft so well that the flavors becomes much more uniform, and with some sort of extra added agent in there with that steam pressing, I feel like everything sort of merges.
Yeah.
And it does feel like a grafting of stuff as opposed to blends that you can taste distinctions in. And that's the difference between, I would say, Old Dark Fired and HH Bold Kentucky. There's distinction in Old Kentucky. Not just that, but without the steam pressing, Bold Kentucky is exactly as the name describes. It's bold. It's got an earthy, more tobacco forward flavoring, and it can really kick your teeth in a robust, kind of nutty, earthy flavoring with just a touch more kind of, I don't want to say sour like it's acrid, but it's just breadier, like sourdough, perhaps, is the best way to describe it. This does have a much stronger nicotine kick than the others. I think that is probably due to the fact that Old Dark Fired is tamed in the steam pressing. Um,
Well, I would say that they're both steam pressed.
oh, they are.
No, yeah, they are. H.H. Burley is not, but it says on the tin here, hot pressed pipe tobacco on Bold, Kentucky.
Well,
So
never mind that. Strike that. I don't know what's making this. This is stronger, and it might be that just the added Virginia has just made a more pronounced flavoring. But I don't know what's going on with the nicotine, but the nicotine's up on Front Street really hard too.
And I don't mean to come in and cut off your analysis here, but
Oh no, no, I think that's good. Like, it's interesting that you say that because if you were to ask me off the cuff what I thought about the two, I'd say one's stronger, and it's probably due to the pressings.
well, and I think so. According to McBaren, the let's see here, the hot pressing adds sweetness and earthiness to the blend,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think going back, I think we probably should have held H.H. Burley to now and kind of done like a triplet kind of series, a triptych, because they all kind of relate to one another. Because H.H. Burley Flake is Burley, Dark Fired Kentucky, and Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Old Dark Fired, same components, but hot pressed. And then
Mm-hmm.
this Bold Kentucky, they took away the Burley and they still hot pressed it. So they're like, it's a little combination of little things between all three blends. And I think the reason why Bold Kentucky is stronger, my personal kind of thinking, and it could be adolescent style thinking, but to me, I look at it as Old Dark Fired had three components: Burley, Dark Fired, and Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Since this one took the Burley away, my assumption is the percentage of the Virginia stayed the same. So if the Virginia percentage stayed the same and you took out Burley, then whatever that percentage is, Dark Fired has now taken over whatever that percentage was. So hypothetically, let's say Old Dark Fired, it was 25% Burley, 50% Kentucky, 25 Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Then in this blend, I would assume, since they took the Burley away, now you're talking 75% Dark Fired and 25% Virginia. So it's kind of like, I'm thinking it's just because the proportions are changing because you removed a component. Maybe not, but that's kind of my, again, more adolescent, naive kind of opinion based on just looking at the components and thinking about percentages and proportions and stuff. Because they're definitely, this blend is definitely stronger. Now, again, I don't think it's as strong as Peterson Irish Flake, and it definitely isn't as strong as Peter Heinrich Dark Strong Flake.
Mm-hmm.
But it does have that kind of ability that Peterson Irish Flake has, where if you're not careful, you can kind of smoke yourself into a dizzy. Now, that's not going to happen with Old Dark Fired. You're not gonna. I don't think there's any chance you're gonna
I
do
don't think
that.
there is either. I've smoked Old Dark Fire before, and there's a tendency for me to get a little hesitant. You'll find me getting kind of leery with Bold Kentucky too. I call it the uh, the moonshine stand test. You
Yeah.
ever drink moonshine sitting down and you're like, this ain't even strong, and then you stand up and then you hit the floor? Uh, that's the moonshine stand test. And it's the same thing with dark fired blends. For whatever reason, dark fired blends, if you're not careful, will sneak up on you so fast and put you in a tailspin. Um, and I mean, this happens a lot with dark Kindle flakes for me. This happens a lot with any dark fired blend. For whatever reason, man, they can just knock your block off. And it's so crazy too, because I'm not some novice when it comes to nicotine. Not that I want to brag about being heavily adapted to nicotine slash what is nicotine poisoning, which is why you get sick. But I mean, Dipped Copenhagen, which is dark fired. That's about as strong of a nicotine hit as you can get. Vape before, smoke cigarettes, cigars, and for whatever reason, man, if you throw some sort of dark fired, I don't know what it is. It's like it just channels that nick hit at such a level that it can knock you down.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said it in the Peterson episode. It's like, dark fired is what everybody says Latakia is. I
Mm.
mean, not what everybody says Latakia is, but the way people talk about Latakia, that's how you should approach dark fired. You should be
Yeah.
weird, like very leery. Um, but I do think Bold Kentucky is a little bit more approachable than Peterson Irish Flake. I think it has that. I don't know. It's like I said earlier in other reviews, Irish Flake had that kind of you don't even feel it, and it can kind of put you in a bad position. Bold Kentucky, again, while I think it's lighter, you notice it more. So I
Yes.
so I kind of think that um this is the blend. I said before, you should cut your teeth on Irish Flake. I think Bold Kentucky is what you should cut your teeth on if you're trying to get into dark fired. I think that Bold Kentucky gives you the feeling of what a dark fire Kentucky blend is, but doesn't. It also teaches that what you talked about with dark strong, where you've got to be patient, you've got to puff it, you can't get too wild with it, and but it's still not as strong as like the ramifications of getting too wild with Bold Kentucky are not going to be as bad as Irish Flake or Peter Heinrich dark strong Flake. Um,
No,
yeah. So I think what I've and this is what I was suspecting because I had smoked this earlier in the day, so it's kind of a first impression. Or I smoked like half a bowl, and so I'm finishing the bowl now. I think the conclusion that I was thinking about, and I'm going to say it now. I definitely think that Bold Kentucky is the superior of the two of Old Dark Fired and Bold Kentucky. So like if I was gonna if like legitimately like if somebody found our channel, kind of like how I did with Stuff and Things. Well, you showed me the channel, but when I first started out, I was listening to your opinions and I was watching him. What I used to like to do was I would I would be working at work, and then on one monitor I would just have his like his reviews just kind of built up in a playlist, and I would just let them play. And like I'd have that playing while I'm working, and I'm just gaining information like what does this one person, how are they feeling about each of these individual blends. And then whenever I got my hands on some of them, then I could kind of gauge, okay, well, I agree here or I disagree here, and I could take that information and kind of roll with it. So if somebody were to find our channel, right, and then reached out to me, just say they reached out to me and they wanted the standard, the
yeah.
the standards, whatever, I would give them HH Latakia, HH Pure Virginia, HH Burley, and HH Bowl Kentucky. I'd give them those four and be like, now look, this isn't everything because there's no vapor here, but this will give you a good idea on each of these. This will give you an idea on what an English should be. It'll give you an idea on what a straight Virginia should be. It'll give you an idea on what a Burley Weber should be, and then what a dark fired blend should be. I don't think I'd give somebody old dark fired because I think, and I was kind of talking about this at the beginning. How I said that we might have should have waited on HH Burley to do it with them together. I think for me, old dark fired sits in between the two, and it's almost like it makes itself obsolete because it's kind of like it's trying to be both. It's kind of trying to be HH Burley, and it's trying to be Bold Kentucky. And some people may find that pleasurable, but to me, it creates redundancy for me. It's
Mhm.
like I think Bold Kentucky does a better job at being Kentucky. I think HH Burley does a better job at being a Burley or a Weber. So I kind of think that. again, and that's no fault to HH itself. Like if HH was the only, like say they got rid of Bold Kentucky, it's still a quality blend, but I probably would lean more to saying, okay, go with Peterson Irish Flake for your standard dark fired. But I don't know. So that's kind of how I'm feeling about it. It's again, Old Dark Fire is a good blend, but it's one of those situations where I've been very passionate about how HH is like how it more closely follows how I would run a company, and it's like I want one blend that is a good blend. I don't need 50 blends that are like vaguely the same. But this is one situation where I think McBaren probably did kind of go into that realm where they're like, here, we'll just make another one, with it. And it's like you probably didn't need to make Old Dark Fire. Now I don't know which one came first. I know that Bold Kentucky came out in 14, I believe. November, it was released in November of 14. I don't know when Old Dark was released. No, yeah, I don't see anywhere where it was released. So I don't know which one came first, but I feel like Bold Kentucky makes Old Dark obsolete.
So I like your observation on that, because I think that what you give to people is what I find there's a tale of two tobaccos we've got going on here, and you and I we're about to divide paths. First off, I actually think I prefer Old Dark Fire to Bold Kentucky.
Okay.
I kind of like that, like, mildness to it. If I want something strong, I'm going to switch to a Kindle Flake. So I'm going to go the Goliath route. So to me, the curation of the tobaccos that I like, the HH Bold, it creates a redundancy. While there is now a void for Dark Strong, it's very difficult to get the Dark Kentucky blend from Orlick. So Old Dark Fire seems like the kind of remedy to that. However, what's interesting about what you're saying is the exact opposite way in which I came to learn about pipe tobacco, which was kind of feeling around in the dark, Yeah. I like it. I think I like tobacco to a certain extent because I don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole on an analogy, but it reminds me of discovering movies in a like a rental store.
Yeah.
You're like, what's this? Because most of the time people back in the day, they'd go into a movie rental joint, and you knew you were going to get the new release. That's what you were aiming for. You were aiming for whatever was the hot release because you wanted to see the newest movie. Most of the time, if you went on a Friday, you weren't going to get the new release. Everyone had gotten it snatched up by Thursday or Wednesday or whenever. Movies usually released on Tuesdays. I knew that later on in life because I started going to rent movies in the summer on Tuesdays because I knew I'd get the new release that day. And then I could rent the new release, but occasionally I'd go back in on a Thursday. I'd already seen the new release, but I wanted to watch something else over the weekend or something like that. So I would try to like fumble around for something. And you would usually go find something older, 70s, 80s, early 90s, really, that you'd never seen before. And that's kind of the way I think I fell in love with tobacco tasting, is it's just like total shot in the dark blind. Sometimes it's good. Most of the time it's not good. And most of the time it's not good because, Cornell and Deal or just movies are just terrible sometimes,
Yeah.
But what I like about your like I said, no, this is where we're going to come back together. You being, I don't want to say a new pipe smoker because you've been smoking a long time with me, but your identity and who you are makes it more interesting because you're like, well, what if you had a flashlight and you weren't fumbling around in the dark? Is there a way you could connect the dots a little bit more succinctly? And I like that. I like that you're giving people that sort of guiding light. would I change anything about the way I discovered stuff? Probably not. However, that's a personality difference, and I think there's actually more merit in what you're presenting than what I present, which is just fumble around, man, just figure it out.
Well, it's
Because
interesting.
in a certain way, I'm still lost in the dark. I've
Yeah,
memorized a lot of things, but there's still corridors that I don't know about, right? And what
yeah,
you're doing is you're saying like, hey, you know these very specific things. You have this very specific kind of pattern, and now based on that, you have a shot at finding that corner or getting around that obstacle. And I like that. I think that that's a strong way of presenting pipe smoking to people who are absolutely novices in it, as opposed to being like, what did my grandfather smoke? Okay, try that. All right, what's popular? Okay, I'm gonna go hunt this. You know,
Bankside.
yeah, I'm gonna hunt this like super rare. Everyone talks it up. Esoterica blend. Okay, well that didn't exactly fill the void, or maybe did, but now I can't get it ever. So what's it? What's and then you just on and on and on. I mean, I think my story. I wouldn't say it's a legend because I don't think I'm a legend, but like I feel like there's a legendary story in the making with my search for the white whale of Stonehaven. You know, I
Oh yeah,
spent so much time hunting for it. I knew that it was going to be, um, Shangri-La. It was going to be the kingdom of heaven. It was going to be the promised land. And I got it, and it wasn't.
yeah,
And it was such a deflating moment. I think I actually kind of stepped away from pipe smoking a little bit because I had that blend when you and I were really kind of kicking off, and I think I kind of actually didn't smoke it for like a month. I just was like, because once you get it, there's an excitement and a kind of, wow, I got Penzance, I got Stonehaven, I got whatever, and you're so excited, and then if you light it up, all that mystery is gone. And I think I sat on it for a little bit longer than what I should have,
yeah,
smoked it, and then realized, oh, well, it's not bad. Don't get me wrong. I don't think I'm not going to badmouth blends that are, but it wasn't like, cherubs coming down from the sky, horns playing, harps going. It was just
yeah,
like, oh, this is a pretty good Weber, but nothing to the effect of the way it was described. And I'm
yeah,
like, is there then I think Stonehaven was the first blend that I was like, is the description inflated because of the amount of effort went into hunting it? Do they really believe it? It kind of like gave me like I kind of questioned reviewers that would really inflate opinions on tobaccos, like Esoterica, because I was like, yes, it's good, but rarity does not equal quality. Um,
yeah,
and that's kind of where I was at. I was like, I mean, all that stuff's blended on, Jersey, the island of Jersey, but Jersey's not the only place it blends. My personal blending house is Galwith and Hogarth and Sammy Galwith. I mean, I think that to me is quality, and
yeah,
it's available. I mean, someone might scoff at the idea of availability, but trust me, like it is way more readily available than any Esoterica, any Germain and Sons blend. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like my 2 cents on that. A little bit long-winded, but I think that the way you're framing it is much more effective for someone who's just getting into it.
yeah. I mean, it is funny that you were able to pick out how that is. It kind of is it's crazy how much that is our personalities too, right? Um, um, because it's our personalities and it's the way we just grew up. Because I mean, of course, I remember going to like the movie gallery or whatever, the Blockbuster or whatever, but I never did what you're saying. You'll fumble around and find stuff. I kind of just relied on, of course, whatever my father watched, whatever was on TV. But then as I got older and the internet became more available, I was kind of like, I'm a researcher at heart. So like, I like to dig in and kind of find things out. So like, for movies, it was like, okay, I like this movie. Let's find, what else this screenwriter wrote, or this director directed, and kind of see what that is, right? Um, using that to guide me, using research to guide me. But I would say, interesting enough, though, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about in our most recent pipe chat. It's like, while I do, you know, gravitate to, what I'm saying, doing a little bit of research, kind of having more of a efficient way of going about it. The fumbling about creates experiences, kind of like we were talking about. When your county's dry, like, or, like dry on Sundays, you create an experience of going to, like, the state line to go get your liquor on Sundays, or if your state doesn't have a lottery, you go to the state line and you do the lottery, and you create moments and memories and experiences. Um, your method allows for that to happen.
Mhm.
You have a memory, you have a moment. My method doesn't do that, but that's not to say one's better than the other. I'm just saying, like, there is a pro, to that side, and you sitting here talking about it made me want to do that. Made me want to go fumble about, for it. But um, that's a
It's like, yeah, I agree. It's like there's no story when you go to the liquor store to buy a pint,
you know
but there's plenty of story when you have to go to another state. You know,
you got a car full of friends and you're going
got a
up
car
there.
with friends, you're behind some moron from Arkansas, like who? Sorry, Arkansas. I got stuck behind someone from Arkansas the other day. That's why that came out of my mouth. Usually it's Tennessee that's driving like reckless, people. And I love it too because everyone in my town, here in Alabama, they go, Alabamians can't drive. I was like, ain't none of y'all from here. How would you know? Oh, y'all from New Jersey.
How would you know?
But I got stuck behind some person. I mean, they looked lost. They didn't know how to use a roundabout. Like, I stopped in the middle of it. And people were blowing the horns. I was mad. Point is there's a lot of story.
Yeah,
That was me going public. So, but there's a lot of story for me trying to get a loaf of bread, as opposed to I just drove down the road, grabbed what I needed, and came back. As opposed to four of my friends, none of us have. That's another thing too. We didn't have fake IDs or nothing. We'd have to like kind of like silver tongue our way into something. There's
yeah,
always some old guy who's like, he looks right. I've had a beard for a long time too. I had a beard in high school. So like I was always the guy who had to talk to me and my 25-year-old friends, like whatever the age was that I was trying to you know, it was
yeah,
like I got through my voice just stopped cracking it 2 years ago. I'm having to convince them. But anyway, the point is that there's plenty of story in that. And I feel like there's a lot of story in trying to find tobacco, but there's a lot more efficiency when you're trying to narrow down what you like. And
yeah,
I think that's what we complement each other because not to say you don't have story, but I think to gear you up to where we're at now in PipeCast,
yeah,
you needed a through line, and that through line is what you're describing. And I think for someone who's trying to get caught up, who needs a little bit more, you know, guiding light,
yeah,
that's one thing. If you're like, maybe more adventurous, maybe you have a little bit more, gut instinct or, gut instinct didn't always serve me well, but like you have some agency about you. Not that you
yeah,
don't. Maybe fumbling around is the way to go.
yeah. I mean, I think that's something, um, ever since the beginning when we talked about doing first impression, last review, that was kind of the appeal, I guess, because I don't know, I don't know. I mean, I think there are a few pipe tobacco reviewers on YouTube that are like a duet or a duo. Um, I think there's like a husband and wife couple out there, but most of them are, you got mutton chop, you got stuffing things, you got um, parsimonious. And what was that guy? What was it, cane
Yeah.
rod?
Yes. Red coat is another great example of that.
Eldritch pipe.
Eldritch pipe. Well, he's a pipe maker too, so he's got even more of an interesting thing on it. Yeah, of course, matches is a great example of that.
I was gonna say the closest I think you got, but you didn't get it every time. But it was like Matches and Sergeant Savinelli. They'd get together from time to time and review a blend. But
But
because
been a duo. We've been sorry, we're sort of um, uh, Martin and Lewis kind of the pipe community.
yeah, yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of it's funny that was the idea of what we thought we would be able to have a good show, I guess. But it kind of, it's not. It's being said here, like it took us a while, and now we're kind of figuring out what is it that makes our opinions, because we've talked about it before. A lot of times we'll come to the same opinion. Rarely do we differ too much. I guess you could say we differ here. This is one example where we are differing, where I'm saying I would recommend bold, where you would recommend old. But most of the time we agree, but we agree from different perspectives.
Right.
Different paths got us there, and it's fine. We're kind of finally getting a concrete reason. In a way, it's like I don't know. I think that's interesting. So.
Yeah, and not to take away from any of those other people who aren't duos, I could never do what like Parsimonious and those guys do. Like, they have a, I don't know. I don't know what their strategy is. I couldn't just. I don't know if I have to have someone to bounce off of.
I was about to say, I just don't have. I wouldn't call it the gift of gab, because it's not really your ability to charm and things, but I just don't have the ability to create interesting content with it's just me. It's like uh, I
You,
gotta have something.
I mean, I feel that way. I mean, I feel like if I were to do a single thing, say I were to like go, I'll do some Zachcast or whatever, right? And I would light my pipe up and just not talk, because I have nothing. Like, it's like, well, I'm thinking it, so I hope you guys have telepathy or whatever it is, or because you can kind of read my thoughts, because I have nothing to say when I'm not talking to anyone. It just seems so crazy, like to me, it's not crazy because it's fascinating and I'm engaged, but I couldn't do it because I'm just
Yeah.
I'm incapable of doing that kind of stuff.
But then, like, I get kind of crazy because, like, about a year or so ago, maybe it's 2 years, is whenever I was doing those. I did like 7 of those videos where it was like the morning smoke or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I was watching a lot of, what's that guy? I think his name was Bruno. He had a big beard, big white beard. He didn't do pipe. Like, pipe wasn't his main thing, but he did smoke a pipe. I think they called him like the Silver Sultan or the Sultan of Beard,
Mm-hmm.
or I can't remember. But I was watching him. He did like a show every morning. And like I was kind of like, man, I'd like to do that, even though I know I can't. So like that was my attempt, was the morning smoke. So
I'm never. It's just not a part of my personality. I have
yeah,
to have some, and there's also some built-in insurance, I think, where um, the person you're teamed up with can pull you back a little bit. Um, that's, I think, good. That you don't want it. You don't want a sounding board. You want something that, or something that echoes necessarily. You just want something that you can. I guess a sounding board. You want something you can play off of. But like, it's the difference between playing tennis with a wall and playing tennis with an opponent or a teammate.
Yeah.
The wall is always going to win, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like with me with a single kind of frame camera thing or single camera. It's just me talking to myself. It's like, well, the camera's going to win because I'm not going to have anything else to say after a certain point.
Yeah. Agreed. It's like, yeah, because, well, one thing too, of course, we watch a lot of, I think me and you both, we watch people who are solo people, and not necessarily pipes. It could be anything. It could be pop culture. It could be political commentary. I don't want to. It's not really political commentary, but it's political in the sense of like it's modern everyday commentary. I guess is what I mean. And like they can get wild because they're by themselves. They kind of go wild, and like you said, there is that insurance if you had somebody else with you. I
Mm-hmm.
remember back in the day, like Fox News had Hannity and Combs,
Mm-hmm.
and like that was a lot more interesting than. I mean, I've never watched Hannity by himself, but I remember my dad watching Hannity and Combs, and like that was interesting because you had something happening.
Yeah.
Conversation was being had. It could have been a manufactured conversation,
Yeah,
but
but I mean, you have a point and a counterpoint, even if it was manufactured.
yeah. Whereas I mean, I guess if you watch Hannity now, it's just whatever his point is at you.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, but to get back to Bowl, Kentucky, I still think my, I'm pretty much through the bowl now, or at least halfway, because I smoked half of it earlier and then I refilled the top of it to start this video, and um yeah, I think my opinion still kind of stands. I think I would I would lean Bowl Kentucky 9 times out of 10 over Old Dark Fired.
And I see why you would. It's just
Yeah,
if I'm going to go stronger, I'm going to go Kindle.
and see, I think that comes into, like, again, it all depends on what your um what's the right word here? What your rotation, well, not your rotation, but your whatever you've curated as your go-tos. That can
Mm-hmm.
change how you feel, like you said. Because I I like Irish Flake a lot. So, see now I don't know. See, part of me thinks I may like Bold Kentucky more than Irish Flake.
And you might, and it's just the blending house. But I
I have
mean,
to,
it's not to say that neither one of them are good, or one just slightly better.
yeah. So I'll have to think on it a little bit because I mean, excuse me. Yeah, again, I think again a lot of it is coming from because I think that there's a bias because I like the HH line. I like the HH line a lot, and I wanna promote them as much as I can. So so I definitely recommend Bold. I think it can be I think it depending on where you're at in your experience of pipe smoking, it can be a rotational. Now, it is readily available, but so is Irish Flake. But Dark Strong isn't. And it's changed. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of is gone. 1792 Flake is a lot more of an animal, but it's also not as readily available as Bold Kentucky or Irish Flake. So I think it's one of those things where I think it's a rotational and I recommend it, but it's up to the person to get out there and try it. I would recommend trying both Bold and Irish. And if you like both of them, I mean, I guess, yeah, I would go ahead and try Old Dark. But again, I think Old Dark fits in that weird bubble between H.H. Burley and Bold, where it's kind of like you're not. I don't think nobody's going to have all three of them as a rotational. I don't think.
No,
I wouldn't think so.
I think at a certain point it's just preferential. Yeah.
So that's Bone Kentucky. I like it. So.
Yep.
So,
Well,
yeah.
another good episode. Well, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
So that was H.H. Bold, Kentucky, the sister to Old Darkfired, and a part of maybe a triptych playlist if we can combine them at some point. But this concludes Burley Boy Summer. We've had a pretty long season. It's been pretty fun. But I guess all good things have to come to an end, so to speak.
Yeah. Look forward to, we still got a handful of codgers to get through. We're going to be going through some vapors here because we're going to be getting into fall. So it's time for some, for vapors. And then we'll
Also,
probably have spooky stuff.
Yeah. And we've got a special blend coming up with Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, we do. We have that. I think we're going to try to have like a 4-day in a row thing happening where we'll do a blend on Mischief Night, a blend on Halloween night, a blend on All Saints Day, and a blend on All Souls Day. Kind of hit that 4-day. What do they call that? They call that Halloween Tide, I think, is what it's called, or Hallow Mass Tide, or something. It's something in the liturgical calendar. So some people may know that, some people may not. But I think it's All Hallow Tide, maybe. Doesn't matter. Try to hit those, and then next year we may do something a little bit more special. So when it comes to Halloween, spooky times. But so hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah.